to 3 years. And even when they lose, they just go, nee, 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 and they just keep going until the legislative branch stops them. This is a failure of Congress in the United States. They need to pass a law and they need to set clear rules, and the vast majority of people in the industry will follow those rules. The rules are not clear. It's impossible to comply with them. And I would love a memo to be drafted to show how, because it's not possible. And also to argue that every single thing is a security. If the founders all die and the protocol still operates and runs, and the value of it is based upon the efforts of a collective of thousands, if not tens of thousands of independent people, how is that a security? We already have a term for that. It's called a commodity. If you kill any person on the planet, any person at all, the value of gold, regardless if that's a CEO of Barracks or the owner of the largest gold mine in the world, is still going to be there. Why? Because gold, its value is a collective of a marketplace. And the participation of these things are permissionless. Who comes to me and asks, can I build on Cardano? You have to ask Microsoft to do something with their products. You have to sign their licenses to do something with their products. It's centralized. But in a commodity, anybody at any time can wake up and say, you know what? I'm going to grow some wheat. You know what? I got some gold over there. I'm going to take it and sell it in a global marketplace. That's why the CFTC exists. Kind of makes sense, right? These are open protocols. But then they come in and say it's a security. Okay, well, what the hell does that mean if it's decentralized? How does Bitcoin register? Oh, but it's not. Then explain to me the fucking difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum and Cardano and the rest of the gang. Explain it to me. Like I'm 5 years old. Run the goddamn Howey test on it and show me the difference between the two. Tell me, is there an expectation of return with the goddamn orange pill moon boys? It's there. There's so many different planks and angles that you can take a look at this thing from. And by the way, if you subpoena an attack about 3 different entities, you could perform a 51% attack on Bitcoin, because that's the way the hash power works. But it's decentralized, apparently. And Team Orange gets a complete pass. It's a pathetic fucking joke. It's an absolutely pathetic joke. You know, and it would be funny if not for the fact that hundreds of millions of dollars of legal fees have been exhausted in this Pyrrhic war that's being fought on the industry. And they'll lose court case after court case, as they already have, and will continue. And then at some point, it'll stop. There will not be an apology. There's not going to be any money that comes back, and we'll just move on.
Move on.
Like we did with the Kennedy assassination. We'll just move on. Like we did with Vietnam. We'll just move on. Like we did with Iraq and Afghanistan. We'll just move on, like we're doing right now with COVID. We'll just move on,
Polio.
like we did with all the things that have happened the last 50, 60, 70 years in the United States history. It has to stop. It honestly has to stop. Why do I praise libertarians come in? Because the only people that seem to think the only people seem to improve the situation, the people that are unraveling the government. It's not accountable anymore. People harm people, they get away with it, and they just move on, and nothing changes. I'm tired of it. I think our industry's tired of it. The entire reason cryptocurrencies exist is not because somebody woke up and said, man, tokens on the internet is such a good idea. The entire reason cryptocurrencies exist is that we're trying collectively to reestablish the social contract, because the social contract is horrifically broken. If the people in charge are unelected, unaccountable, and don't ever have to prove to us, the beneficiaries of the public trust, that they're doing good for us. And when they screw up, nothing happens to them. They get a promotion, they get elected to higher office, and we just have to move on as a society. That is not a government for the people, by the people, of the people.
I don't know what that is.
That is something else. That looks a lot more like the thing that we rebelled against when we founded this goddamn country. So it will change because we don't have any money left. We're $31 trillion in debt.
Oh, yeah.
Everything is coming collapse. We want to change. If you poll people, over 80, 90% of the American people are fundamentally unhappy with the legislative branch, the judicial branch, and the executive branch and want different leaders and different governance.
Everybody with a brain.
Yet, the American government stays
Everybody
exactly the same,
critically
doesn't
thinking is not
change. The American
susceptible to
people are good
brainwashing.
people.
Thinks
Go all
as
around
if
the United States, you
if
find
they
very
are Jones.
hardworking people, honest people, high integrity people. It's hard to go to a
Oh,
country and go to Gillette, Wyoming. It's negative 15, negative 20 outside, 100-mile-an-hour winds. And they're out there working outside, building something because they got a family to take care of. That's the American people in a nutshell. That's who we are. We get it done. We build the best companies. We build the best infrastructure. We're the smartest people, not because we're born smart, because we import smart. If there's someone smart outside somewhere else in the world, we find them, grab them, bring them here. It doesn't matter where they're from. Be from Uganda, be from South Africa, they can be from Mongolia,
Uganda.
Russia. We don't care. We'll bring them in, work with them. That's who we are. That's who we are at our core. And then we have this government, and it's a catastrophe. And it just harms and hurts so many people. And it never says it's sorry. It never says it's done something wrong. And there's no accountability anymore. It used to be the fourth estate was the media, and they'd hold the government accountable. They'd say, oh, look at what the government did. Pentagon Papers. They lied to you. Let's publish it. Let's talk about it. Now, oh, WikiLeaks. Evil Julian Assange. How dare you compromise our national security and talk about that stuff? It's a joke. It really is. So we'll change it. We'll fix it. There's two-prong approach. One is the blockchain stuff. It's really about social engineering. It's saying we're reinvent money. We're going to reinvent our voice. So change all the voting systems, reinvent identity and property rights. And that's a philosophical movement. We own the young. It might take 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, but Gen Z, they're not going anywhere. They're here in this movement because they understand this is fair, this is high integrity. You can't trust people anymore. They grew up with the internet. They see all the hypocrisy. They see news real time. The other prong of it is that the federal government is impossible to change. People say, Charles, why don't you run for president? What's the point? Obama can't change it and Trump can't change it. I'm sorry, there's no way to change it. Think about how powerful Obama was when he came into office. He had a super majority, 60 senators, super majority in the Congress. There's no filibuster. He could pass anything on a party line vote. We were on the back of the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression. Didn't go after Wall Street. Iceland did. It's extraordinary. Trump comes into office, is unconnected to everything. Couldn't get anything done. Why? Because the beast does not permit change. The deep state's a thing. It exists. You can't vote your way out of it. So the only way to change it is a constitutional convention. That's the escape clause the founding fathers were smart enough to put into the Constitution. You need 2/3 of the states to come together, and it will happen. And the whole government needs to be rewritten, and we'll write a new constitution. We're learning how to do that right now, the Cardano ecosystem, but goddamn, the American people have to do it. And the world will rejoice because we can return to being a bastion of democracy and actually be something better than what we were.
Bastion. What is bastion?
Crypto is the deep state. It's the antidote, my friend.
The antidote. Oh, that's a great name.
As someone from Croatia, Vivek, like cake. I always think of Vivek from Elder Scrolls 3, Morrowind. Seems to be best candidate. Young person. How about we have somebody that was born like in the second half of the 20th century as opposed to the first half as our leader?
Choices they're making instead of just parasiting everything.
The central banks need to go. Yes, sir, they do. Nice. I went to the summit in Dubai a few weeks ago. Incredible. Thank you so much for being there. We really enjoyed it. I love what you're saying, positive. Absolutely. I'm going to do an America tour one of these days. Just go all around, talk to everybody, and say, hey, you know what? You're in charge, not them. Let's take our power back.
Let's do it.
Yes, Iceland did hold the banksters accountable. Absolutely did. I feel this guy's pain. The passion is real. Well, I feel the American people's pain. You know, uh,
America.
it's so crazy because you can see it in the culture. In the 1980s, The Simpsons came out, transformative show in my life and so many people of my generation. I think it started in 1988. And if you pull back the layers of The Simpsons and you look at the basic premise, you have a guy who's a high school dropout who works at the local nuclear power plant in a blue collar job. He has a stay at home wife and three kids. They have two cars and a house. And that's not an extraordinary thing. People didn't bat an eye in 1988. They said, oh, yeah, you could sustain a family by that. Now, two college educated people can barely afford to rent and have a single car. In many cases, they have to take the bus because there's just not enough money go around.
Take the
How is it
bus.
you can be in a more productive place in life, have a higher wage in life, but your buying power is less than Homer Simpson from 1988? Because they robbed us all. It's called inflation. They destroyed the money, the politicians did, to pay for their wars and their graft and all these other things. They stole it from us. Okay. And it wasn't a barrel of gun. They just did it through printing money. That's why they hate crypto so much, because it's honest.
Smash the
It's
light.
that simple. What is your opinion of NAD and IV therapy? Okay, so NAD is a class of drugs, supplements, or whatever you want to call it, and there's all these other things that are floating around, like metformin and rhabdomyosin and these other things. And basically, people are, and you're absolutely right, constitutional republic based upon democratic consent. You have to give me that. But anyway, back to the NAD. So with the NAD, basically it's just a class of things, and that people seem to think that it helps with cellular energy and mitochondrial health, amongst other things. So there are three books, if you're really curious about anti-aging, which are really good because they put everything together and they're awesome and well respected. So Lifespan from Peter Attia. Actually, let me bring them up. I'll actually share them right now with you guys because I want to make sure I get the titles right. And getting old these days, every time you get sick, it actually inflames your brain. Let's see here, Lifespan. David Sinclair. That's exactly right. All right. So I'm going to bring all these books up and show you guys. And these are the three books that you need now. That's here, Peter. Uh, Outlive. Yeah, see, that's why we're doing it. And my good friend Peter Diamandis and Life Force. Tony Robbins too. Why is Tony Robbins writing the anti-aging book? Although he wrote it with a doctor, so we'll give him credit. Okay, so you guys ready for this? Wah! Okay, three books. So you got Lifespan, Why We Age and Why We Don't Have to. And it's written by David Sinclair. Sinclair is like the guy at Harvard for anti-aging. He's got a lot of really cool ideas and things he's doing, and he created the information theory of aging, and he talks a lot about the state of the art in the science. Then you got Outlive
Happens
by
every
Peter
time.
Attia. He's a doctor.
Every
And
time
this
I
is
read
kind of
it,
like the
just
Bible of
comes back up
anti aging.
being some
So he breaks
conspiracy.
down four different
I'll
categories:
click
your
it
diet,
twice
your
to get
exercise,
to
your
eHEX.
emotional health, and your sleep. And he gives us a
Confirm my
collection of
lifestyle.
recommendations of things that you can do that basically are science based to radically improve your health span and lifespan. So, lifespan is how long you physically live, and health span is how long you feel pretty good while you're living it. Nobody wants to live to 100 if when they get to 50, they get Alzheimer's and they spend the next 50 years in memory care.
That'd be
And finally, you got Life Force, which is strangely written by Tony Robbins combined with Peter Diamandis. And actually, a surprisingly good book. There's a lot of really, really good people, Peter Diamandis and Robert Harari, kind of work with them. And
Ferrari.
there's a lot of great breakthroughs there. So if you're curious about anti aging, those are the definitive three books to start with. And you'll get an enormous amount of information. In, they're what, 20 bucks each, so $60. And you'll be kind of caught up with the state of the art of where the industry's at. So the reality is that no matter who you are, if you want to live a long time, it's not about taking a drug. There are four things you have to do. You have to do them well before you even have the conversation about anti aging. I do not do them well yet. Very hard as a CEO to do them well because you need time. You have to eat right, You have to have appropriate level of physical activity and
Er,
exercise. You have to sleep well every night, and you have
Charles
to get your emotional
Hoskinson,
health
I
in
don't
order.
believe you're
Okay?
doing the
If
appropriate
you
amount
don't do
of
those four
exercise
things,
by the
I
shape of
guarantee you
your jowl.
all the science shows you'll be in an early grave and your health span will be dramatically compromised, meaning
Cannot
that even if you live to
be
75,
too
you're the guy
fond
getting cancer,
of your owl.
diabetes, you're the guy getting heart disease,
Like
you're the guy
that.
getting some lifestyle problem. Guaranteed. Now, if you do all four of those things right, it is not a guarantee that you'll live healthy. Not a guarantee because you still could get a rare, weird ass cancer or interventions. So that's where you can talk about hyperbarics. That's where you can talk about NAD and rhabdomyosin and metformin. That's where you can talk about calorie restricted diets.
Talk about
That's
taking
where you
a
can talk
walk
about
and
injection of stem
drinking
cells
water.
and exosomes and these types of things. Okay. But don't even think about those things. Don't even talk about those things. They don't matter. They don't exist because they will increase your life a few years, maybe a decade if you're lucky. Maybe you get 2 decades, but you're going to lose 2 decades by having the core of your lifestyle wrong. So if your diet's wrong, you're overweight, you don't work out, your sleep shit. If you look at just people that work night shift, they die like 15 to
You're
16 years
afraid
or
of the muck by your
earlier if they work
thoughts.
night shift through their whole life than non-night shift workers because their sleep schedule is shit. Think about that. Just working night shift will kill you. So everything you gain currently from the
20%
state of the art
bonus
in anti-aging means nothing if
working
those
night
four core
shift.
are not right.
Should do a study
Okay,
for
so
that.
those three books will kind of take you through it, give you all the evidence, talk about the state of the art. And then there's plenty of things in the functional medicine world that will help you establish those four things correctly. And you got to rebuild your life around it. It's very hard. I get it. I don't do it myself as well as I need to. That's why I'm overweight. But we'll get there. It's a
No
journey, not a
lies.
destination. And once you're there, then you can talk about the next level up, and that's the stuff I'm very fascinated in, which is how do you combine different modalities together to actually start getting additional years in both life and health span. And the good news is there's a whole wave of drugs and research and other things that are coming that if you have good foundations, you really can expand the human lifespan by a decade or two.
Youth
The night shift can
gasping.
be managed with a consistent schedule. You say
50
that,
gray.
but it can't. And the reason being
Currently
is
50 gray.
everybody else lives on a day shift. So you have two options on a night shift. You can either
Bonus
just
upside
ignore the world
16 gray on
and keep a
Saturday
consistent schedule and pretend like the world
ish.
doesn't exist. And you
Night
basically get very
guy.
socially isolated.
Yes.
Your emotional health goes to hell. Or you can
Only
participate in the world,
18
and then your
gray
sleep
above
schedule
the
goes to hell.
lowest
So
percent.
unless you live with a group of people that also work the night shift, like oil rig or these types of things, your entire social group is on that night shift side of things. The odds are that it's going to fall apart.
Sounds like fun.
You always think about your environment. This guy begged at least 10 other platforms to join his project.
In a
He's a
world,
scammer. He's a fraudulent guy.
he's the
Watch my
guy.
YouTube video where I take you all through it and how he's begging. Oh no. Ah.
In a world where Charles Hoskinson has LASIK surgery and doesn't look like a nerd.
Why do you even watch me? Why are you even here? Sure. Kind of extreme statements. Maybe you could nuance that. I'm sorry, I missed the first part. What's the extreme statement part of it? You need a personal trainer, a personal chef, and a shaman. This is my shaman.
Shaman? Shaman?
Charles, any chance of doing a fireside chat with Caitlin Long? Good friends with Caitlin, and I'd love to do a fireside chat with her one of these days. I've done a few of them, and it'd be fun to do it again. We always run into each other because we're neighbors up in
Do a
Wyoming.
fireside chat. That goof guy. Professor Goof.
Pentagon audit failed. 6 years, 3 trillion in accountability. Yeah, it's true. Terrible tragedy. Just got to move on. All that Pentagon money
Move
that's
on.
lost. Chaz and Ginger Snaps. I'll see if Tam wants to do one over in Abu Dhabi because we'll be there next week. Charles, did Kraken tell you to go fuck yourself? No. We like Kraken. We get along with them. They're another Wyoming based business. Oh, these guys. Just toxicity, 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 toxicity. And why? What do they gain from it? Who are they? Top form Charles, EDI update, please, sir. We're working. We got the network stack measured in various different ways. There's 8 different metrics in EDI, 8 of them. Play around with, a lot of fun. We're sending the team actually down to Abu Dhabi to talk to the ADGM and also talk to the people in Dubai at Vara. And it'd be also cool to see if we can get Ras Al Khaimah. And what we're trying to do is actually showcase EDI to governing bodies that create sandboxes and regulate cryptocurrencies and say this should be the definitive metric used for regulation. And I think there's Coin Market Cap and CoinGecko and all these other things. You can see right next to cryptocurrency, in addition to the market cap and the price, the decentralization metric, and for Masari to use and so forth. That'd be a lot of fun. But that team's working real hard. Daniel Wood, and there's a few others that are working on it. And they really thought comprehensively and systematically about the 8 different areas that you can have that are in of centralization or decentralization of the project. And my hope is that it can become a North Star for the government of Cardano as they continue to decentralize things.
The Polaris of Cardano. The Nexus. The Nexus of Access.
Charles, are you still taking lion's mane? Absolutely. I mix it in with my coffee. And I have cacao and lion's mane together. It's very nice. Favorite food spot in Vegas? There's actually a lot of really good restaurants there. There's a Wagyu place that specializes in Wagyu that's in the Palm. That's really, really good.
Oh, really?
What else they got? The Golden
Fantastic.
Steer. That's Elvis's favorite place. There's dozens of these things.
You're so bright. So
Charles has a forked tongue, says you, Martin Luther. Meh. Oh, okay. He's a Craig Wright fan. It's okay. Don't worry, we'll eventually come up with a cure for that. Any updates on aliens in the ranch? I don't have any aliens in the ranch. Well, maybe I do, but not for you guys. Change the lobster. No, that's Logan. He's always on the mic. We love Logan. He's my guy. Logan the lobster. You guys named him. Golden Steer is the bomb. This guy knows what's up. Charles sponsors censorship. But how? Like, who did we censor? How's the health center? We're up to 5,000 patients. How about that at Hoskinson Health and Wellness? 5,000 patients, half dozen providers, and it's growing like a weed. Actually, phase 2 is under construction. We're right now in the thick of things with blueprints. We're really working hard. And I do believe within a reasonable period of time, we should be able to break ground on phase 2, which will add a lot more stuff. It'll triple the size of the clinic and our capabilities, and that'll actually get us in a position where we can start human trials for some of the research that we want to do for anti-aging. So patient volume is really increasing. My hope is to get it to about 10 to 12,000, and that'll cover about a third of the population of Gillette, broader Campbell County. That's about as good as it gets. So it's been an extraordinary ride, and really a kudos to the staff there. It's already made a huge improvement in public health in Campbell County. A lot of internists, a lot of family practitioners we brought in. They needed 3 doctors for every 1 doctor that was there, and we're starting to actually hire some specialists as well, in addition to the lifestyle people. How's JJ? Well, he got a promotion. He's chief of staff now. He's doing good.
43 Gray.
You mentioned you had alien shit update for Joe Rogan show. Any sneak peek for us? Well, we do have the update of the paper coming that we wrote, and that's going to be published in the spring of 2024. Turns out it takes a really long time to go through 800 spherules.
What'd you just say? Spherules?
Do, do, do. How many helicopters do you have? I just got the Blackhawk. We use it for fire service and ranch work.
What?
Do you follow Rhonda Patrick in her research with saunas? Absolutely. I've seen her on Joe Rogan, and I think she was also on Huberman podcast. By the way, Huberman's misinformation now. I've had videos taken down, including AMAs for medical misinformation. So thank you, YouTube. You're number one, man. You're number one. Oh, WHO, you're so good. Oh, WHO. Oh, my God. It's so great.
What was it?
God save us. We need to decentralize these systems. I'm sorry, we can't rely on Elon Musk spending $40 billion just so that we have a medium where we can express ourselves without a transnational body saying what's right and what's wrong, especially when they're captured by China. Charles, do you think you'll be getting a visit from the DOJ anytime soon? No. Charles, you ever been chased by a cliff racer? Absolutely. Killed my high elf. Bastard cliff racer, traumatizing my childhood. Hate you so much, cliff racer. Hate you so much.
And you know it.
Great technique. Well, I have to work on it. Cryptocurrency guy, got to do things to survive. Can you please elaborate on the woolly mammoth revival that's being done by Colossal? I'd recommend you take a look at their website. Don't know what's public and what's not, so I can't talk too much about it, but they are on schedule and making great progress towards resurrecting the woolly mammoth. I think before the end of the decade. So do you use saunas? Yeah, I got one downstairs. It's infrared sauna. Gets up to 170. How about that? Any news on the World Mobile Partnership? How is your relationship with them? I love Mickey. We do well, man. We just saw him at the summit. We're doing well. Hi, how are you, Charles? Actually doing pretty good. Got love in my heart. Life is okay. It's all going to be okay. Surely science has bigger priorities than creating a hairy elephant. Well, every single day, dozens of mammals go extinct. Every single day. And they say, conservation, conservation. We're just going to kill 3 billion people. It's not going to happen. So We have two options. We either can just accept that our grandchildren will have half the biodiversity that we have today, that we grew up with, just like we have half the biodiversity that our grandparents grew up with, or we have to figure out how to bring them back. So you need a symbol, and that symbol shall be the woolly mammoth because it's fucking huge. Everybody knows mammoths. They love mammoths. Fluffy elephants, come on, that's cool. And then once you have that, you can bring back the rest, and we can have a real global conversation about how do we restore the many, many, many species that have been going extinct because of overpopulation and human activity.
Human activity ruining the
And
world.
yeah, people love the woolly mammoth. Come on. Come on now.
Eugenics. Give us a break, Charles. Just because you got so much money in a Black Hawk helicopter.
Any advice for or if you have kids or where you're at in life, but single most important thing you can do is work on yourself. And just try to balance everything out in life. Lower the debt, get yourself healthy, work on your body, really get your mental health in order. Think deeply about that. Just become super well adjusted, positive person. What that does is it creates a beacon, and then people naturally gravitate towards you. And then once they do, then it's very easy to date. Don't go looking for people. Make yourself a person people go looking for. What are your views on the WEF and Klaus Schwab? Mr. You'll own nothing and be happy. I went to Davos one time, and foundation at the time was under Nathan Kaiser, and all those Swiss people are like, you get this badge classism. Different color badges mean you can go to different areas in Davos, and I had the lowest tier. So we weren't allowed to go many places. Security every place you went. And it was just one gargantuan, I'm more important than you fest. Every interaction, every discussion, every interface with people was who has more money, who has more prestige, who has more power. That was everything. It was like, where are you in the hierarchy? And then it was a virtue signaling contest. Every place I went, every person I talked to, oh, let's talk about DEI. Oh, let's talk about ESG. Oh, let's talk about SDG. Flew here on a private jet. Okay. Every single person trying to prove to you that they're not a horrible human being, which makes me believe that they probably are horrible human beings. You got kids in the dungeon and shit. It's like, God, why do you have to wake up every day and prove to me that you're worth the oxygen you're consuming? Just do shit. Talk about the cool stuff you're doing. Don't go and tell me, how cool you are. But that was Davos. It was just a disgusting affair. And I said, I'm never going back. It's not going to be this thing we're doing. We thought we could make it an annual event. There's a cryptocurrency pavilion. You know what? We'll leave that to the Swiss. They're very proud of it. There's not a lot of authenticity there. Now, there are a lot of really powerful people that go to Davos. It's scary. Because when a lot of really powerful people who virtue signal get together, they start believing that they should run your life. They start believing that they know better than you, and then they have this inside track on the fourth industrial revolution. And that revolution is going to be a fundamental reevaluation of everything. And they just want you to live in a world where you eat bugs and you own nothing and you'll be happy because they'll tell you to be happy. It's pretty dystopian and pretty terrible, the world they want to give us and the way they think about things. And so the best antidote for that is decentralization of power. Deconsolidate things. Give people control of their identity, their money. Give people control of consent. Voting, identity, and money always must be in the hands of the people. Every single thing the WEF people are doing, old Klausy is doing, is trying to consolidate those things and take them not only out of the hands of the few, but put them in the hands of a transnational unelected permanent minority. Because of some spec to those same three drum beats. No matter what the fuck someone is trying to tell you, DEI or ESG or whatever, say, do I have control over my own identity and my data? Do I have control over my voice, my consent, my voting? And do I have control over my money? And if what they're doing violates any of those fundamental three things, they are the enemy. They're trying to destroy society. They're trying to put society in the hands of the few and basically have unlimited power forever and tell you how to live your life. Now, if they're helping you do those three things, then we can have a conversation. But I'm just done with them. I'm done with the WEF people, and I'm done with this globalist mindset. We went from 2 weeks to slow the spread to papers, please, in a 2-year period. Forced vaccination of so many people. There's so many horrible things happened that I never thought in my lifetime I would see in the United States of America. And we had them there, and they didn't apologize. They just, let's move on, but we'll do it again. And now they're signing transnational treaties to make it much easier to do. We're just waiting for the next one. And every time you do it, you lose an enormous amount of freedoms along the way. And that's WEF in a nutshell. So no, it's disgusting to me. It's crazy that WEF exists. No, it's not crazy at all. Why wouldn't it exist? People want power, so they're just going to do it. Well, you eat the bugs. Well, I already do. I mean, I eat scorpions. I like scorpions. Scorpions are nice. Plans to attend F Denver. They never invite me. I have to kind of like sneak in. No, the venue's terrible for it. I like the organizers. I like what they're trying to do, but they have like 3,000 extra people, and everybody's densely packed in, and it's almost impossible to get in. And it's sad because if they had just picked a different venue, like the Denver Convention Center, for example, then it would be a lot of fun. But it's too many people for what they want. If they want to keep that venue, they should cap it about 500, 750, and it'd be a lot more fun. Nobody I know was forced to get a vaccination. Okay, so if you're in the military, an airline pilot, healthcare employee, education employee, you were told if you don't get this, you lose your job. You get a dishonorable discharge. You get kicked out of the military. It doesn't matter if you're a SOCOM operator, Green Beret, 20 years experience, 19 years in, right before you're 20. You'll be kicked out. Could have fought in 3 wars, had a Medal of Honor. Oh, you didn't get vaccinated? You're out. They were forced. I'm sorry, that's not consent. Just put sex in place of vaccination. Well, if you don't sleep with me, you're going to lose your job. What do we call that? If you don't get a vaccination, you lose your job. Is that consent? Is that consent? No. Don't fucking lie to us. It's pathetic. They coerced and forced people into this and harmed a lot of people along the way. The other thing is informed consent. It's the basis of all medical ethics. Day one in medical school, they start talking about medical ethics, the doctrine of informed consent. If you do something to a patient, you must explain to the patient the consequences of the thing you're doing, both positive and negative. Doc, I want to get a back surgery. Well, let's talk about it. Doc, I want to get a bunion surgery. Well, let's talk about it. It's not all rosy sunshine. There could be side effects. There could be permanent issues. Go get a brain tumor removed. Hey, you might go deaf. Okay, that's medicine in a nutshell. Then when you say as a policy, as a journal, that anything negative about vaccines we can't publish because we don't want to promote vaccine hesitancy, then how are you succeeding in the doctrine of informed consent? If every single thing must be positive or neutral, nothing negative. And anything that's negative, you always have to say the catch-all phrase, but we still recommend you get vaccinated. It's extraordinary to me. And I've never seen a disgusting violation of medical ethics at this scale, at this level across the entire world. And it's turned a lot of people super fucking bitter. And when you say bullshit like that, nobody I know was forced to get a vaccination. You ever fly on a fucking plane? You ever go into a school? You ever go into a hospital? People were told, and unconstitutionally, by the way, because in New York and other places, the Supreme Courts have decided it was, and they're getting their jobs back, that they have to get a vaccination or they lose their job. A vaccination that was not FDA approved. They tell us on the rejuvenation side, you got to do 10, 15 years of trials of stem cells on rats and things like that to even think about injecting somebody. And every normal vaccine takes 10 to 15 years. It took 10 years to get the Ebola vaccine through and all this other stuff. They tell people that, but in this case, they say one clinical trial was enough. And we can now give this to billions of people, and we can't talk about the side effects. And that's an example why people are so angry. Because even though you feel that way, half of America feels the other way, and there's no escape valve because they know it's going to happen again. Because no one went to jail, no one said they're sorry, the policy will be the same. And it doesn't matter if you die, it doesn't matter if there are consequences, it will happen again. And if you speak out against it, probably this AMA will be taken down. I've now had 2 videos taken down because at least one person will click the button because they're propagandized, and now it's gone. It's so safe. Anybody who dares say otherwise has to be silenced and deplatformed. It's extraordinary to me. And by the way, I was on the other side of it. If you go back to my videos in 2021, I got vaxxed. I took the Pfizer vaccine. I trusted these bastards. Just extraordinary to me.
What a dumbass. And now you've got such great perspective.
My sister, a nurse in New York, lost her job because she didn't want to get the shot. She already had COVID, though, so it was pointless to get the shot. They lied again. They said natural immunity is less than vaccinated immunity when they knew it was the opposite. They lied again. There you go. Now you know one person, his sister. Go fuck yourself.
One person. La da da. Whoop. Got a little reverb. Smash and little likes. I don't know how I got that reverb on there. It's dope though. Yada da me. What was he saying about Richard?
Charles, what's the status of the Nessie restaurant? All the top Wagyu meats to be served, or only bison? Will midnight and dusk be allowed like Ada? Any partner chain, any Cardano native asset will accept. So Nessie's is on hold. I own the Hilltop. I'll give you guys the whole backstory on it because it's a pretty cool backstory. So I live in Wheatland, Wyoming, part-time, and I got this big ranch there, and it's a beautiful bison ranch. And I drove out to Wheatland. There's 3,500 people in Wheatland. It's a very small town. And there's only a few restaurants like Vimbo's and Windy Peaks, and there was the Hilltop. So I got in my head that it would be just this amazing idea to buy the Hilltop, which is right next to the golf course, and refurbish the whole place and build this beautiful restaurant. I'll call it Nessie's after the Loch Ness Monster, and have Scottish cuisine and serve bison there and water buffalo and all kinds of exotic meats and hunted meats like venison, and kind of make it a destination. I even bought a dinosaur skeleton. I actually own a skeleton of a plesiosaur, and I was going to hang it in the atrium and say, look, there's Nessie's. Look how great this is. So I buy it. During the negotiations, I find out the person who I bought it from, who I was buying it from, was being sued by her business partner who claimed that they own 30%. And then I talked to their lawyer about it. He said, well, it's none of your business. That's why we didn't disclose it. It's like the fact that you're being sued by your business partner and they claim they own 30% of the property that I'm trying to buy is not my concern. And you're like, where did you get your law degree from, man? It's like, why are you still on the bar? So it was nuts to actually even get the property. And then I find out that property used to be the clubhouse of the golf course. They split off in the 70s, but they didn't do it the right way. So all the deed was wrong and all this stuff. So it was a nuts to acquire it. So I finally got it. There's all these problems. There's asbestos in the building and it's falling apart and all these things. It's like, okay. So I start refurbishing the whole thing. So we're moving along. And I say, all right, well, the parking situation is terrible. It's sharing the parking space with the National Guard, the golf course, and my place. And it's too small. If I build this big restaurant, too many people will come. The parking situation will be terrible. So can I expand the parking lot? No. There's just nowhere to expand the parking lot. So I still have it, and it's sitting there. And I winterized it, and I'm just like, what do I do with this? So here's what we're going to do. We're setting up a not-for-profit. We're going to start a members-based club, and it's going to basically replace what the golf courses club was. We'll call it the Hoskinson Club. It'll be nice. It'll be, serve all kinds of great whiskeys and have a cigar room and really cool place for watching football and baseball and golf and all
Right.
these other things. And we'll have video golf in the basement and pool tables in the basement and darts and all the other things you'd want from a nice
Tailgates
social
invited.
club, and have memberships in the golf course. We'll work a deal with them. They can
Nerd
roll their members
alert.
and gives them something to do during the winter time. And then we'll have power plant and other people in town join, and get the membership count high. Now I still want to do Nessie's, but that site I bought, the Hilltop, is just not going to work for that. So what we're likely going to do is buy something else in town. They tried to sell me the A, which is the old liquor store there, but it's in rough shape, and we'll have to demo the whole thing and build a parking lot and all that other stuff. But I just haven't had the time. So it will happen. That site is on hold, but it will happen because I want a good restaurant in town, and I still have the plesiosaur, and I would like to show you guys how cool it is. And will we be able to pay with crypto? 100%. We'll accept all major cryptos.
Major crypto. What might that entail?
Sounds like a cool social club. Yeah, we're going to make it really cool. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, you go up and pitch when you know you're lying. Because you wouldn't know cool if it fell off a fucking bus and smacked you right in the fucking table. Fucking video golf downstairs. Give me a break. Sounds like a daycare for nerds.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yep.
Charles, why are you so cute? See, you got to take some good ones. There we go. How did you meet Ran Barak? We did a very exhaustive search for CEOs, and he was the chief operating officer of Polkadot at the time. Wonderful guy, though. He used to run Symphony, and he's just very capable. The government's argument is that vaccination is a collective effort, non-vaccinated individuals impede the eradication of the virus. Well, that's true if you have a global plan for a global vaccination, like we did with smallpox and polio. It only took 300 years to eradicate them, but okay. Polio's case, it took about 70, but we're mostly got rid of it. But there was no plan to vaccinate the vast majority of Africa, India, and other places. No plan. So if you have billions of people that act as a reservoir, every single year comes back.
And your boy Gates was able to use.
We all knew that. We have epidemiological models that showed that. We live it every year with influenza. You get the flu, I get the flu. Just got rhinovirus. Man, it was tough. And no matter how much you vaccinate people, unless you have a plan to force vaccinate the entire world, you'll have a reservoir for billions of people to get it. The other thing is it mutates rapidly, and it escaped the vaccines very rapidly. All the vax people in the United States got coronavirus again. Okay. So what they did is they said there's a crisis of the unvaxxed. If only 100% of America got vaccinated, we'd be totally immune to it in less than
bullshit. Check 1 2 1 2.
Oh, hope your boy RH didn't fall for that propaganda.
I guess I'm live.
Propaganda.
All right, now let's get viewers.
Your boy Go Bulls. The best propaganda you've ever seen.
I guess I've got viewers. All right. Hello, everybody. So today is a super important day for Bitcoin. Bitcoin's job is to provide censorship resistance and a reasonable rate of inflation, which is consistently decreasing, to compete against worse fiat currencies and a bunch of middlemen, which add friction and cost and misinvestment and malinvestment due to the boom and bust cycle of artificially low interest rates. Now, during that path, nation states had two options. They either could, one, become friends, legalize it, make everything easy. And some countries actually did that. So in the United States, we had a license, such as the New York license, which allows large multi-million-dollar entities, I guess a billion-dollar entity now, such as Coinbase, to easily onboard millions of new people into the system. So the United States made a great choice there. China, however, was much slower. They didn't create a special legislation for Bitcoin entities, and therefore their ecosystem was somewhat crippled because it led to regulatory uncertainty, and as you've seen, regulatory turning off. So now the question becomes, when a nation state turns off something that its citizens want, does the price of Bitcoin go up or does the price of Bitcoin go down? And the good news is that after all the FUD, all the Jamie Dimon, all the China shutting off everything they can, staggering their news, the price of Bitcoin went to 3,000, which it does on its own normally, just a random volatility of a new crazy thing, okay? So a thing that just drops 40% normally, that only goes to the 40% point for a couple minutes and then shoots all the way up 25%. We bounced in 3 hours from 3,000 to 3,800. Then they staggered out some more crap news. We went from 3,800 to about 3,600, and now we're going up again. I think we're at about 3,750 now. Well, let's check the chat. Check the charts. About 3,700. Well, yeah, 3,700. So if every ban that they can do and all of the FUD that could exist and all of the forks and all of the Bcash and all of that garbage has already happened, it could only get the price to 3,700. You couldn't possibly be more bullish. And when the government decides that they're going to screw their citizens over and trample their rights to conduct commerce with their fellow man, to conduct commerce internationally, to turn them into wage slaves or fiat slaves or interest slaves or debt slaves, whatever you want to call it. When they find out that doing that makes the price of the Bitcoin go up, it's like prohibition for alcohol. Some goody two-shoes decided that they were going to make alcohol illegal in the United States. And what they got was a lot more people, a lot more violence, a lot more poisoning. They poisoned the alcohol so that people wouldn't drink it. And then the people drank the poison alcohol and they died. So China's trying to poison the fun drinking of Bitcoin alcohol that people are currently enjoying, getting the highest outsized returns of any investment class in the world, something that's truly decorrelated from the markets. I was listening to an interview with Tim Ferriss and Ray Dalio today, and it's a good interview. You should check it out. Tim Ferriss is trying to ask Ray Dalio how he should evaluate whether Bitcoin is a good price or when to get in, things like that, because Tim Ferriss is a startup guy, and he can't use the same logic that he uses for startups to figure out whether Bitcoin's a good idea or not. But he knows that there's a lot of other people that have made a lot more money in the VC business than he has that are deep, deep, deep invested in Bitcoin. And Ray Dalio said, well, if you want to know whether something's a good investment or not, you analyze the people, the buyers and sellers. What are the motives that they have? And then if you understand their motives well enough, you can predict what they're going to do in the future. And the other thing, so to that point, if Chinese people want to get around their currency controls and are smuggling gold to do it and are doing every trick in the book to route that value around the artificial government control, we know that they love Bitcoin. That's why there's so much mining there. We know that they love Bitcoin. That's why there's so many exchanges there, and there's so much volume there, and there's so much development there. They love this stuff, and they're part of the reason the price is as high as it is. Now, what happens when you ban something people love and they derive benefit from? The price goes much higher. And that's not a theory, that's a fact. You can go on localbitcoins.com and see what the price of Bitcoin is all over the world, in every shitty country that's decided to screw over their citizens by making it illegal for them to protect their wealth by making it illegal for them to speak the language of commerce to other people. We're just transmitting digits to each other. This is communication. Speech is a right. It's enshrined in the Constitution of the United States. It's enshrined in United Nations charters, and it's enshrined in nearly every civilized country in the world. And the ability to use your money to speak is also protected in the United States by the Citizens United verdict. Money is speech, Bitcoin is speech, and if you try and stop people from speaking, you will get revolution. When you don't let people voice their concerns and you don't let them engage in commerce with each other, and they don't have any friendly, nice way to route around you, you end up with unfriendly ways. And this is a world where revolutions do occur. They've occurred in Cuba, they've occurred in Venezuela, they occur all the time in the Middle East. You try and screw with mining, the fees go up and people mine more. You try and screw with exchanges, we go to peer-to-peer. We got satellites. We got little sticks called Open Dime that you can transfer Bitcoin like cash because there's encryption on them. So they're not like normal memory sticks. They're encrypted memory sticks that are magical in some way. I don't feel like explaining it. That allow you to sell your Bitcoin in person, no internet needed, right? So you can do Bitcoin transactions over SMS. You can do Bitcoin transactions using satellites. You can do Bitcoin transactions without the internet. You can do Bitcoin transactions in person using an open dime. You know what other cryptocurrency you can do that with? None. Ethereum won't let you do any of that. No other cryptocurrency will let you do any of that. The only cryptocurrency in the world that has those capabilities is the Bitcoin cryptocurrency. So all those Chinese people that were buying ICOs, banned. Well, what are they going to do with that money? What are they going to do with that economic energy? They've been addicted to the gains, the mad gains. Where are they going to get their mad gains? In the only currency that they can actually use, Bitcoin, which also happens to be the most secure one, which also happens to be the most widely adopted, which also happens to have real cypherpunks that care about user privacy and security over corporate garbage. So Blockstream, people like to make fun of it because it's a company. I hate to break it to you. Every open source project, the majority of the people that work on it work for companies during the day and the projects related to what they do for work. That's the vast majority of open source development. And I'm going to tell you, you prefer that to having people that just show up whenever and kind of work on it a little bit because they don't really have to, because it's not their job. Bitcoin is as good as it is because we have the best developers. Adam Back invented or popularized proof of work with Hashcash. Satoshi quoted him in the paper. Nick Szabo coined the term smart contracts. When numbers were made illegal, when they figured out how to decode DVDs and rip the data off of them by cracking the DRM, that little magic code that let you crack the DRM, Adam Back was selling t-shirts with that code, okay? And that's the kind of thing you could have got put in jail for because that number was made illegal to publicize for a while. There was risk involved. So Adam Back, for the last 20 years, provably cares about your privacy, cares about your security, cares about digital scarcity, and was one of the first guys to try and get digital scarcity to exist. You know, Bitcoin's not the first attempt at a digital currency. It's one of a long line of attempts that were very close, but didn't just get it right. And Bitcoin got it right. You know, a lot of people are amazed by Bitcoin's technology. One of the things that they're not amazed by, which blows my mind, is how hard it was to get it to have a price. Somebody had to mine it when it was worth nothing. Somebody had to build all of the ecosystem around it when it was worth nothing. I was part of that. I got in early 2011. I got to be some of the first GPU miners in the world because a nice guy, who I won't name, was nice enough to write a software and allow us to use. Well, thank you, guy, for writing some open source software and letting me run it and make coins from thin air. That was very nice of you.
Yeah, who was that?
You would prefer the world operate in that way with those guys who don't really have a business model, who aren't trying to make a lot of cash, who really are invested in the ecosystem, invested in the coins. You know all those sellouts? You know those people that tell you that they care about Bitcoin? Where are they now? Right now, when we're punching the nation state in the face, Bitcoin, I make more money, right? So I'm not going to name names because I'm happy to ghost those guys and just let them disappear. For all the people that you think have an in the space, where are they now? Did they warn you about the China ban? Did they tell you where to buy the bottom? Did they give you translations? Did they give you news first? Are they pumping and doing everything they can to control the image so that the price goes up sooner rather than later? I would rather the Bitcoin price go up sooner to show you that when you FUD, you get a day of dump and then a whole lot of profit. So that if you don't time your exit on your dump right, you get burnt, right? I love it when these guys go short in public media and then the price goes up. Because when they place their little pussy short with their little wage slave money and they try and get the price to dip with their stupid article with a bunch of unfounded crap, they don't know what they're talking about. They're not computer scientists. Listen, if you're not a computer scientist and you think you know what's going on in Bitcoin, you probably don't. This is cutting edge stuff. This is literally computer science breakthroughs pushing the limits of what cryptography can be used for in a $50 billion flying airplane that doesn't have downtime. Go look at Ethereum's downtime. Exchanges have to turn off Ethereum wallets all the time. What kind of world currency is off all the time? Or worse, hacked all the time? Or worse, has no user retailer adoption at all? No one's buying anything with it except other useless things. You got to be kidding me. So, when this stuff all happened, peer-to-peer Bitcoin banning, Bitcoin trading isn't banned, but ICO crap is in China. And where's all of Ethereum's volume come from? Where does all of the purchase orders from Ethereum come from? People trying to get into these stupid ICOs. Okay? So when the ICOs got banned, you'd expect the Ethereum price to drop through the floor, right? It didn't. Maybe that's because the people that actually hold all the Ethereum now are the ICOs that all the stupid people gave their money to. The stupid people gave their hard-earned real cryptocurrency that they could have done something with, Bitcoin, to ICO number one of the first successful ICOs. It's really like ICO number 6. It came after a bunch of other ones, which would be Ethereum. And then that ICO, which was an ICO, then they took that money, which pumped and had a little value, and they gave it to these other ICOs. And now those ICOs are trying to create their own sub-ICOs. And it's basically layers of bad business models with unproven teams that get paid extra the more impossible their project gets. The more impossible the ICO project is, the more money they get. Let me let you in on a secret. If you're in business and you're doing the maximum viable product, you will never get to market, you will run out of money, and no one will ever hear from you again. That is the reason minimum viable product is a very popular term. That is the reason lean startup is a very popular strategy. Because the less time you spend building something, the sooner you can release it and iterate and actually get it to fit the market. Or if it doesn't work, pivot, like Flickr. Flickr wasn't supposed to be a photo sharing site. They pivoted into it. I could list you a ton of things that were supposed to be one thing and pivoted into something else amazing. So Bitcoin's got the satellites. Bitcoin's got the user adoption. Bitcoin's got open dime. Bitcoin's got the press. Look at the search volume on Ethereum. It's 3 times less than Bitcoin. Bitcoin's search volume is doing this. Ethereum's volume went bloop, blop, bloop, and you can see it in the price, right? So what's my point? If you were going to buy Bitcoin, buy it today. If the price was going to go much lower, we would have already done it. You show the nation states that when you ban the thing, the price goes up sooner rather than later because it will go up later anyway for the same reason that it did in Cuba, Venezuela, every other place that controls their citizens and screws them over by making them use a currency that becomes worthless and that you can't do anything with. You can't send more than 50 grand out of the country, which actually is a lot in the grand scheme of currency controls. Most other countries don't let you send anywhere near 50 grand. I think Venezuela might let you send like $100, maybe, right? Thus, for some reason, I don't think people understood how important it is that today is the day that we show strength, because today is the first day that a nation state really made a pretty decent effort to fuck with us. Now, they're only doing it short term, okay? Because these guys aren't stupid. They know what the future looks like. There's a lot of engineers running the nation state of China. I think there's more engineers and technically minded people with doctorates and science degrees in the government of China than any other government in the world. And for that, they should be respected. I think Estonia should also be respected for having a president that was a developer. That seemed to work out very well. I think the world would work better, particularly in America, if 90% of the politicians weren't lawyers, and that's currently the state. America is the most litigious country in the entire world, and part of that is 90% of the government is lawyers. And what do lawyers do? They make laws and they write a lot. That's how they spend their time. And that's what you get in government. If you had more business people, more plumbers, more normal human beings in government, you would have some benefits that we're not seeing currently. There are countries outperforming America's governance. There are countries with better results for their citizens, and it is repairable. I made a video about it. It's called Treat Your Politics Like Your Sandwich. It's on my YouTube channel. I think it's good. It tells you some ways that we can fix America's government, and they're not even that hard. In summary, the price of Bitcoin in China is going to go up for the same reasons it's gone up in every other country that's banned it. Nobody's got satellites. Nobody's got the open dime. Nobody's got the security. Nobody's got the adoption. All that energy that came from the ICOs being turned off and Ethereum's price dropping over time, it's almost half of its value, last I checked. It's coming to Bitcoin. I can't think of anything that would be more bull. And we got SegWit to happen. And the transaction fees have never been lower. Like, they're low. You don't have to pay anything to get rolled into a block. And the blocks are empty. And because we had to push out the 0.15 update, we've already protected ourselves against the BTC1 terrible, terrible, stupid idea with few devs. Sorry, Jeff Garzik. You tried to do satellites, you got beat to it. We got satellites working right now. Jeff Garzik, you got a company called Block Inc. Is Block Inc. what BTC1 is? I only do that because that's the crap you do with calling Blockstream Bitcoin Core, which is offensive to all the people that contribute to Bitcoin Core, which is like 80%. If you look at the commits in the last rollout of 0.15, I think 80% of them are people that aren't Blockstream oriented. And like, how dare you shit talk Adam Back anyway, because we wouldn't have Bitcoin without him. If Adam Back hadn't gotten Hashcash to work as a denial of service prevention for an email or remailing service that he ran as a cypherpunk to help people protect their security, to help them protect their privacy, right? Adam Back ran a remailer which allowed people to post things to Usenet anonymously by shielding their real identities. But people would abuse the system, and he needed a way for them to stop abusing the system, so he invented proof of work. A little computation would have to be done on your computer before you could use the remailer. Satoshi saw that, and he used it to create Bitcoin. And Wei Day and Nick Szabo's work and Chom Lightly with Chaumian Cash, all of those things led to Bitcoin. And without them, Bitcoin would not exist. So when I see a jerk off who's had been smacked down by Satoshi before, telling him not to change the block size or he would be forked off at his own detriment, when I see a guy that now holds opposite all the positions he used to have, I'm talking about you, Jeff Garzik. When I see that guy trying to create a fork without replay protection and repeat your speech out to the world to your detriment, a guy like that's got to get censured publicly. And since no one else has the balls to do it, I'm going to do it. Jeff Garzik, stop being a bitch. Stop trying to roll out a fork without replay protection. Stop trying to pretend that you've got a competent developer team there. You don't. If Greg Maxwell wasn't constantly helping you guys, all of your nodes would be banning each other constantly. You guys suck at development. And there's a reason that nobody that's qualified wants to work with you. It's because you've sucked for a long time, okay? They got the satellites up, you didn't. Real developers work there, and that's a reason when you go to the GitHub, there's commits constantly progress. What have you guys done? Did you guys fix the UTXO database to work quicker? Did you guys invent your own libsec 256p library that checks the transactions quicker, like 8 times quicker, 4 times quicker? What's the last, did you guys invent a really cool addressing scheme to save space and make things human readable? You guys haven't done shit, okay? Mike Hearn, when he left, he didn't do shit for Core. He worked on his own little Bitcoin J thing, but he still called himself a Bitcoin developer. Jeff Garzik, when's the last time you did anything for Bitcoin Core that people run in their computer, right? People that talk shit about Bitcoin Core and Blockstream, you're talking shit about the Bitcoin network that runs and is up all the time, right? And that last little disclosure that got done about the little hack, that was reverse engineered. They already had the solution, but they don't just push solutions out and risk the system. They actually test them. You know what that is? Testing things before you release them on a $50 billion ecosystem. All you people that don't own much Bitcoin, you don't mind seeing the price drop because, hey, you can buy the dip, right? But us old school guys, they've been holding forever. We're not happy to see the price drop. We're happy to see our life savings stay nice and strong without idiots fucking it up for us. So Jeff Garzik, think about it. You want to go release your own altcoin? Do an airdrop like Byteball. Do an airdrop like Bcash. Do an airdrop like Bcold's going to do. Do a friendly fork. Don't be a dirty forker, okay? Don't be a sick horse Trojan coin that tries to sneak in and steal miners that we have to bring, around the back of the house and shoot it because we don't want to pay miners to leave the ecosystem that feeds us, right? Jeff Garzik, stop. All you Bcash guys, stop. Fake Satoshi. You know what you're doing, right? If I see fake Satoshi on your stage, you're part of the problem. And if you were dumb enough to get scammed, you're helping other people get scammed. And it ain't going to go well. So if you got the balls to speak out against ICOs, which you should have the balls to speak out against obvious frauds, right? If you lie publicly, if you lie about a small thing, you're probably lying about big things. And if you lie publicly about a big thing, holy shit, what's left? I mean, what do you got to do to burn your social capital in this ecosystem? It's a little bit weird. I don't know too many people that have actually been ostracized. I can't think of anyone in the Bitcoin ecosystem that's been ostracized except maybe the Cyprus guy, whose name I can't remember now. But even he's kind of back in, right? So Bitcoin, pump the price, teach China a lesson. It's going to pump on its own longer term anyway because they want this stuff. And if you make it harder for them to get it, just like everything else that's hard to get, a monnaie is expensive because it's hard to get. A banned good is expensive because it's hard to get. All those people that are going to jail for trying to smuggle gold into China, well, there's a reason they're doing that. It's not because they like going to jail. It's not like because they like duct taping gold bars on themselves, right? It's because there's a demand for those things there, a demand that Bitcoin is filling, and it's doing well. And as far as China goes, remember all those engineers I was telling you about that run that place? They're going to legalize Bitcoin, and they're going to give those exchanges a framework to work in, and it's going to be okay. So isn't that good news? I mean, what exactly is this regulation that's came out that's driven Bitcoin's price down? The New York legislation? Oh, we can't get Shapeshift to serve us in New York. Fuck Shapeshift. We don't need Shapeshift, right? I would much rather have Coinbase onboarding 60 million people than Shapeshift convincing people to dick around with altcoins that are going to go to zero, right? So I'm going to look at chat and see if you guys have any smart questions. I think I've said my piece on a couple of things here. If you're not memeing and you're not pumping Bitcoin and telling the world how great it is and talking about all these awesome things, you're fucking up. That's part of your job, okay? We don't have a marketing team. We don't have anybody that's selling this stuff at a profit and a markup that can afford to buy these ads. You got to be the ad, okay? You got to do the outreach. This is a grassroots project. Grassroots means you have to do something. I do my part. Scrolling up. All right, chat. Let's see what you got here. Wouldn't it be funny if I was on silent this whole time? That would be so crappy. Hey, chat. Have you been able to hear anything I've said? It's going to be laggy because I think I'm on a 20-second delay because I put on the 4K so that you can see this physique. I'll sit up so I look skinny. Now I'm skinny. Lucky me. Richard for president, thank you. Someone says they own over 10 BTC. Wow. In Reddit, we would say, nice try IRS or something along those lines. Fuck Garzik. All right. Fuck shitcoins. All right. Don't be a dirty forker t-shirts. I like it. Danny Brewster. Yeah, that was Cypress guy. By the way, there was an audio interview with Danny Brewster. Coin. I don't really care. Whatever. Is Litecoin on television? Or it's okay, but the dollar's okay. Litecoin's probably better than the dollar, but I don't think it's as good as Bitcoin. I think it dropped 20% more than Bitcoin did, so it's not that fabulous. Monero, here's my problem with anonymity coins. So if the strength of a coin is its anonymity, you don't need to buy much of it to get all of the anonymity benefit, right? You could just cycle all of your balance through a very small amount of the thing, and then you'd get all the anonymity without having to put economic liquidity or energy into their system. So all of the anonymity in the world could probably be done with not that much of an anonymous currency. So anonymous currencies don't have the the fundamental pump ability that a real currency that has user adoption gets, because people have to hold it. So with an anonymous currency, you don't have to hold it. You get in, you get out, now you're anonymous, and you've got the currency that's the leader, right? So I don't like the long-term prospects of anonymous currencies. And you're going to get anonymity in Ethereum when they roll in ZK snarks, and you're going to get anonymity in Bitcoin when they roll in confidential transactions, which should be happening after MAST and Schnorr signatures. So you're going to get anonymity in those systems, and no one really needs it anyway, for the most part. Everyone that's gone to jail for doing something stupid didn't go to jail because of the currency. They went to jail because they fucked up their OPSEC somewhere else. So people reuse passwords, reuse usernames, their proxy dies one time and their real IP comes out. They use honeypotted Tor addresses in a row, and then you can use timing attacks to discover what computers are really the Tor connected computers. So unless you introduce your own randomized delays, you can still be blueprinted through timing attacks. They enlarge the screen and it takes up the full screen size, and then they blueprint you by knowing how big your screen is. I know a lot of ways to figure out who's doing what, right? And none of them come from the currency side. It's the last of their worries, right? Dread Pirate Roberts was getting passports to his house, and he answered the door, and there was Alphabet Boy there looking at him like, you're caught. And then he didn't even bother to move. If you're hiding out with a fake name in a rented Airbnb apartment, and what you would consider the bad guys come and visit you, maybe move, you dumb fuck. I don't know. That guy was a real idiot in a lot of ways. So I could go through I guess since it's funny, I guess I'll mention it. If you Googled Silk Road, you found one of the first posts on a forum about it, and then his email is there, and then that email is tied to his real name. The dude fucked up so very many things. His server leaked real IP, which seems to be so common. If you misconfigure your Tor server, it leaks. It knows what its own IP is, and then it can leak it out through the .onion address. And so, he leaked his IP and his name and his real email, and got passwords delivered to his house, and was extorted 50 different ways by 50 different people, both dirty cops and dirty normal people. And none of that had anything to do with the currency at all. So, if you think the currencies want to get you caught, it's not the case today. And, you also have the option of not doing illegal shit. That's what most people do. Most people don't do illegal shit. Hey, I have an idea. If you want to get really rich without doing illegal stuff, why don't you just buy and hold Bitcoin and just hold it and keep holding it and work a day job for a while? And then in a couple of years, you'll be rich and you didn't have to do anything stupid and illegal. All right, chat. Let's see what you got here.
Being black on a Friday.
Silk Road on the blockchain. Yeah, so there's a dude working on that. It's called Open Bazaar. I think it's called OpenBazaar 2 for some reason now, but I'm not exactly sure why. And he makes funny videos with his family on Twitter. So, God, I wish I could remember his name right now. But check him out. Check out the OpenBazaar guy. I was retweeting his request for people to test his system because a free and open source commerce network that's made to work with crypto and be anonymous is pretty awesome, right? I mean, that's why we're here, right? We're trying to empower the normal man and, make the world work better and reduce friction and reduce counterparty costs. Like, that's the whole game. So I think OpenBazaar is a cool project. I've never used it personally. I don't know if it's actually good or not. I've heard good things about it. It'll be better when you start playing around with it and testing it, right? Because he's working on it. Expose the Fed, the IMF, and Jay Diamond's puppet masters. So a lot of people think that everything's a conspiracy. Most things aren't conspiracies. They just look that way because people have common interests, right? So I'm here telling you about how great Bitcoin is. Is that because there's like a bunch of people telling me to do that? No. Like, I want it to pump because I want it to pump, right? And then a lot of other people are doing the exact same thing. It's not a conspiracy. It's an emergent behavior that could look like a conspiracy if you wanted it to, but it's just an emergent behavior. And you get a lot of those in about what conspiracies he was in because his body was never found, right? On down the list. Do you think silver's a good investment? No. Silver's a piece of shit. Gold's a piece of shit. Why would you think that a several thousand-year-old thing would be awesome? See, things are awesome when they're new, right? The longer a thing's been around, the less margin there is, right? So if silver was super rare and super valuable, and it's been around for 1,000 years, the mining technology keeps getting better. And it mines more out of the ground until it's not worth as much anymore. Same goes for gold, same goes with anything else. Anytime you're dealing with something that's been around for thousands of years, the margins have been vastly, vastly reduced. Now you're going to say, oh, but what about paintings? And what about real estate? And what about these other things? You can't mine paintings out of the ground, and the people that make them die. And you can't mine real estate out of the ground. It just kind of is the ground, right? So you can mine silver and gold out of the ground. Furthermore, silver is a piece of shit. I hate silver. It just tarnishes constantly. Do you like weird looking stuff that just keeps changing color and you have to keep like cleaning it? And if it's ornate, you've got to use a brush or an ultrasonic. Like, it just is terrible, right? And then if you use it for silverware, let me let you in a secret for silverware, right? It's in the book. If you guys read the book, all this stuff's in the book. It's pinned in the Discord. It's not a book, it's an outline. But if you care about doing things instead of reading a cool story, outlines are actually better. Food that you eat with heavier silverware tastes better for some reason. Just like items that are heavier, we feel have more quality. However, when you eat food with silverware, the metal touches your tongue and the metal tastes like crap. It tastes like metal. So if you use the same type of stuff you'd feed an infant with, like melamine, or I don't like bamboo, but some people do, or different polymers, fiberglass, as long as you don't have BPAs in there, activating your estrogen and turning you into a girl or whatever. I'm probably over scientific and being a little too scientific with chat. Don't use silverware to eat. It tastes better on stuff that's not metal, unless for you, the heaviness makes up for it. But in that case, you could make heavier plastic. You could even weight it, right? So screw silver. Silver's the worst. Gold's slightly better. At least it doesn't corrode. However, 90% of its value is store of value. 10% is actually use it value. Same with Bitcoin, by the way. So what's the better store of value? Bitcoin that's doing this, or silver that's doing this? They're printing money left and right. Everything's at all-time highs, guys. Everything's at all-time highs. Stock market's at all-time highs. Volatility index is the lowest it's ever been. It's the lowest volatility in September that's ever happened. Gold and silver are doing this shit, or maybe this, Who gives a shit? For 5 years, they could have been doing this. Well, Bitcoin's been doing this. So why don't you do this thing? I like this thing better. You know, like maybe for you guys, it's reversed. Up, right? Bitcoin goes up. Metals go down. Shit that's been around for thousands of years, except for, you know, art and real estate. And even real estate, like, it's not that good. Dudes, look at Bitcoin's return. It's sick. It's insane. The worst case scenario is you buy at the absolute death dip, which I don't think we're going to have anymore. Like, if we were going to have a death dip, it'd be now, right? China banned it. Jamie Dimon says it's terrible. It's pumped 8 times. Okay, well, we didn't have the death dip. So if this couldn't do it, what could? If this can't get Bitcoin's price down, what could? We would have to have like a giant solar flare that EMP'd the planet. Even then, the blockchain's still stored statically on non-magnetic media. It might still move the price up. I mean, we still have the chain. The private keys are all still good. Yeah, like I don't even think an EMP could destroy the chain. It might slow down future adoption, but it might pump the price short term. All right, chat. What else we got here? Colloidal silver. No, colloidal silver is not awesome, okay? Because if you eat too much of it, you turn blue. So Google the blue silver guy and see what happens when you eat too much silver. No, like don't do that shit. Look, if Alex Jones sells it, you probably shouldn't be taking it, right? Everybody keeps asking about these fucking books. Letters from a Stoic. Essays and Aphorisms. Seneca, Schopenhauer. They're just philosophers. Meh. Well, Seneca was much more than a philosopher, but anyway, I like my book better than their book. Read them all and tell me which one you like best. Please talk about fungibility. Sure. If you don't have fungibility, you don't have a currency. So there was this law that was made in the United States that guaranteed that if you got dollars, you wouldn't have to worry about having to give them back because someone else had stolen them. Because people would just write down all their serial numbers, and if ever they saw that serial number again, they'd go, hey, this was stolen from me. And it would make the currency much less useful. So Bitcoin currently protects itself from that by not having a whitelist and not having a blacklist and being decentralized. Have their addresses here, and we're going to pre-roll some keys, and these are the keys that we'll allow, and we'll give them out, and we'll hold them. And so there's a bunch of ways that a nation state could attack a cryptocurrency, and enforcing a whitelist would be one of them. And a guy who has worked with whitelists and bullshit like that before and breaking fungibility? Jeff Garzik. Jeff Garzik, his company Block Inc., apparently bought a company that does chainalysis, which is fancy word for fucking up users' privacy. So Jeff Garzik is related to, somehow, fucking up users' privacy. And he's more directly related with his stupid hard fork that makes everyone have to move their coins around, reducing their anonymity even farther. Stop, Jeff Garzik. Go build real code, submit it to core. If it's good, they'll roll it into a release and you can be a winner again. You can have real code in people's computers that they run and they thank you for, which I don't think you have right now. Feel free to tweet me, Richard Hartwin, and you let me know what code you've got in the cryptocurrency ecosystem that human beings are running and finding profit from running. I'm unaware of anything, but I'm willing to learn. What do I do all day? I shit talk on Twitter, and it's a waste of my life, and I can't wait to do the next thing, which for me is a supercomputing token. Guess what, guys? My buddy's CFD project, you can mine it. It's mineable. It's hard to do, easy to check. That's really cool. It's really cool. I like it. All right, what's next? People keep talking shit about meh, like any project that raises hundreds of millions of dollars with no traction, I mean, I hope to do the same, but it's hard to jump out there and be like, hell yeah, that guy that made all that money, you know, maybe I'm a player hater. I'll put it to you this way. If the biggest problem with, it's not the biggest problem. So a problem with smart contracts is that there's no such thing as a smart contract. Let me just explain that to you, all right? Smart contracts are a fantasy. All there is goddamn computer code, okay? So normal contracts are written by lawyers, and a good contract anticipates everything that could go happen that would suck, and then says, if this suck thing happens, we do this, right? So if we have to cancel the contract, we're going to send the notices to these addresses. We're going to give this amount of leeway. If we have to argue about the terms, we're going to arbitrate, and if arbitration doesn't work, we're going to submit ourselves to this jurisdiction. Cancellation has this fee. These are the rights you have. These are the rights you don't have. These are the people that are allowed to sign for you. This is where we signed. This is the time we signed. Basically, over hundreds of years of getting people to agree on stuff, contracts evolved as a way to prevent having to go to court, because everyone loses in court. There's a huge friction cost. Half the time it doesn't work right. Court sucks. So a well-designed contract keeps you out of court. So what's a smart contract? A smart contract is a contract that you can't read. You, as a participant in the contract, aren't a programmer. You are not a developer. And so when you look at this smart contract that's supposed to make your life better, you have no idea what it says. So all you've really done is introduce more shitty counterparties. So there's what you want the contract to say, which in the regular legal world you could read. And then you go, oh, I'm going to be fancy and smart. I'm going to do smart contracts. And all a smart contract is the logic that you could understand and was written in a normal contract, processed by a developer into code that you hope was processed properly. And here's a problem with code. It's got bugs. And it's always got bugs. And it will always have bugs. So, in a system that you can't roll back, like a blockchain, how do you fix when the bugs happen? You can't, because it's stupid. It's a dumb idea. Smart contracts are dumb. That's the reason you don't see them used anywhere. Who's using smart contracts right now that does any volume at all? Nobody. Now you could say, but Richard, isn't multi-sig a smart contract? Not really. I mean, come on. Let's give the word some power, right? So a smart contract is a human-readable contract processed by a programmer who screws it up, and then the worse language and the worse tools you give them, the more they screw it up. So the Ethereum EVM is terribly, terribly, terribly buggy and nearly impossible to write in. And even if you get around all the edge cases and all the screw-ups, your program will still bug for reasons that weren't that. They'll bug for things that were outside of it, because smart contracts have to take inputs from elsewhere, because there is no such thing as smart contract. It's just a piece of software. It's just a program, just like every other program, okay? But the program's supposed to take inputs from other places, like, oh, this price went up, well, then we'll issue these coins. Oh, this price went down, oh, well, we'll issue those coins. The oracles are broken too. So first, there's always bugs. You lose your money. Second, the person that actually has to care about what the contract says isn't the developer, has to trust that what you said the contract does is what he actually wanted. 3, the code's always buggy, and one solution to it is to formalize it using a formalized language where you turn the code into math and logic and you prove it. But then that even fails for all the things that you couldn't prove, the external inputs, the other states for the other systems that have infinite things that go on, and you can't test them all, right? So smart contracts are dumb because they're not human readable, and they're buggy, and even if you try and catch the bugs with formalism, you get bugs outside your test area. Retarded. Oh, and the Oracle problem. Even if you could make perfect contracts, and even if they never had bugs, and even if everyone that made contracts in the world was a developer and could read them and go, yeah, that's exactly what I wanted, even if all those were true, the oracles cheat. They lie about what's going on. So let's take the most honest oracle you think of, the New York Stock Exchange. Earlier this year, they published the wrong stock price for all their stocks. Now, what happens if your smart contract is using the New York Stock Exchange's feed? I guess a lot of people are going to lose a lot of cryptocurrency. And then we're going to be like, please roll back the chain. Can you roll back the chain, please? Right? So smart contracts are terribly stupid. Most ICO ideas are terribly stupid. Like storage startups.
Smash
Oh boy.
the likes.
Let me tell you about a storage startup. Storage is where you buy hard drives from the hard drive manufacturer. They make a lot of them in Thailand. You buy them, you receive them, and then you stick them in a SATA connector or an SAS connector, okay? And then it just sits there and waits to be turned on for the head to spin. Well, that's, if you buy those in bulk from the source that manufactures them, that's the cheapest price you can get. And then you stick them in these boxes as affordably as you can, and then you stick them in a place where the bandwidth is very high. And that's as vertically integrated and cheap as you can provide storage, right? So take Backblaze.com. Backblaze.com has 100,000 plus hard drives, and they built their own special open sourced enclosures that hold 80 to 100 hard drives per 4U slot. So you can't get higher density. You can't buy the drives cheaper. They also built their own open source distribution where it copies the data over multiple places. So if you lose one, it's still good there. If you lose that one, it's still good there. It's like a RAID 5, but it's not a RAID 5. They did it differently.
Like and subscribe.
So it's already as cheap as it'll ever get. So now how does adding a token and a bunch of complexity and making everything harder improve that? What, you're going to replicate the data across more drives and make it cost more? You're going to have less reliable hardware. You're going to have slower connections. Look, the crappiest new drive will do read-write at 120 megabytes, and that's with SMR magnetic technology. With normal PMR,